In today's video, we'll discuss a special team in the Rhodesian Army during the Rhodesian Bush War. This team was notable for its blend of trained soldiers and former guerrillas, along with their distinctive methods and approaches. Let's dive into the topic without further delay. What were Selous Scouts? The Selous Scouts were a special forces unit in the Rhodesian Army, active during the Rhodesian Bush War from 1973 to 1980 until Zimbabwe was reconstituted. Their main task was to infiltrate the black majority population of Rhodesia, to gather intelligence on insurgents for regular security forces. To achieve this, the unit formed small teams that posed as insurgents, often incorporating captured guerrillas into these groups. As time passed, the Selous Scouts not only increasingly engaged with insurgents directly, but also expanded their operations to neighboring countries. The unilateral declaration of independence by Southern Rhodesia in 1965 was met with resistance from groups such as ZANU and ZAPU, leading to guerrilla warfare. Initially, the Rhodesian military effectively countered these tactics. However, the situation deteriorated, especially after Mozambique gained independence in 1975, which provided guerrillas with additional bases. Their special methods. The Selous Scouts, a unit in the Rhodesian Army, used pseudo-tactics where they posed as insurgents to gather intelligence. From its inception, the Special Branch controlled and influenced the unit's operations and training. Initially under the Special Branch and later under Wall's military command, the Scouts maintained direct reporting lines. This posed challenges for the Special Branch's oversight as the unit grew and shifted towards offensive operations. The troops within the Selous Scouts were organized into 3 sections, each consisting of 9 to 12 men, occasionally expanding to 30. These teams developed strong bonds and included both black and white personnel. Notably, all Selous Scouts officers were white until nearly the end of the war. The Selous Scouts, adhering to pseudo-doctrine, aimed to penetrate Rhodesia's black population and insurgent networks for intelligence gathering, focusing on their locations for targeted attacks. Operating in a hunter-killer role, they tracked insurgent supply lines from Rhodesia into neighboring countries, eliminating insurgents they encountered. Although they successfully impersonated insurgents, particularly from Zanla, they struggled with Zipra's discipline structure. To protect Selous Scouts teams, the authorities established frozen areas, temporarily suspending regular army and police activities without disclosure. Despite operational success, there were occasionally friendly fire incidents involving the Scouts. Fire force teams, initially deployed via helicopters and later including paratroopers, were formed to act on intelligence provided by the Scouts. A key strategy of the Selous Scouts was to persuade captured insurgents to join the Rhodesian forces, highlighting the severe consequence they would face under the law. Although there were instances of desertion or betrayal, most of these turned insurgents remained loyal. The Selous Scouts also used tactics to disrupt local customs and sow discord among insurgent groups. While effective, their ruthless methods, responsible for 68% of insurgent deaths, ultimately alienated much of Rhodesia's black population. Despite the unit's perceived success and glorification, the Rhodesian leadership considered the all-white SAS to be more professional and security-conscious. How were Selous Scouts created? In 1966, following Southern Rhodesia's Unilateral Declaration of Independence, or UDI, there was a proposal to form a unit combining soldiers and former enemies to infiltrate guerrilla networks. This concept, known as pseudo-operations, was initially tested by the British South Africa Police's Special Branch, but failed due to the lack of cooperation from Rhodesia's black population. The idea gained traction again in 1971, when the Zimbabwe African National Liberation Army, or ZANLA, started dominating the country's northeast. However, the program's implementation was delayed until early 1973. In February 1973, the Rhodesian Army formed 2 teams comprising ex-communist guerrillas, members of C Squadron, 22 Rhodesian Special Air Service, and the Rhodesian African Rifles. Later that year, Major Ronald Reed Daly, retired, was appointed to lead the regiment. The Selous Scouts, named after British explorer and hunter Frederick Courtney Selous, underwent rigorous training to foster cooperation between soldiers and former guerrillas. To build trust, the guerrillas were given AK-47s with removed firing pins, unbeknownst to them, enhancing camaraderie and reducing the risk of betrayal. Joining the Selous Scouts required enduring a grueling 18-day training camp, so intense that passing seemed nearly impossible. Many volunteers, aged between 24 to 32, failed to complete the selection process and advance to subsequent training stages. The selection included rope and height challenges to assess survival skills, comfort with heights, and physical strength. The camp's extreme rigor earned it the nickname Wafa Wafa Wasara Wasara, meaning who dies dies, who stays behind in the Shona language. Successful candidates then underwent an intense 8.5-month training program to become entry-level Selous Scouts. This program was divided into 5 phases: basic training, recovery and refit, tracking and bush warfare, pseudo-terrorist training, and parachute skills development. Additionally, the final course included advanced free-fall parachute and combat diving training. Selous Scouts deployment and cross-border operations. By 1974, the Selous Scouts were fully operational within the Rhodesian Army, primarily focusing on intelligence gathering about guerrillas. In their operations, Black Scouts would infiltrate the tribal trust lands, while their white counterparts remained concealed. Once they obtained the necessary intelligence, the Rhodesian Light Infantry, or RLI, took over. Demonstrating their effectiveness, the Selous Scouts prepared for their next mission. In March 1974, they divided into 3 troop groups and headed to the Chimamanda Tribal Trust Land. By the end of that month, 1 troop group was deployed into the area, and by year-end, they had eliminated 221 guerrillas. By late 1975, the Selous Scouts expanded their operations across borders, continuing for the next 5 years. In January 1976, they targeted Zanla in Mozambique, using rapid vehicle columns for successful attacks. This success led to the formation of a reconnaissance group headed by Captain Chris Schulenberg, focusing on security intelligence. Throughout the late 1970s, the Selous Scouts engaged with other groups like ZANU, ZIPRA, and ZAPU. Famous operations performed by this special unit. Operation Eland. In 1976, the Selous Scouts executed their most renowned mission, Operation Eland, also known as the Nyanzonya Raid, targeting a Zanla guerrilla camp in Mozambique, following a series of enemy attacks. Despite facing daunting odds, estimated up to 1,200 guerrillas against them, the Scouts managed to enter a camp by convincing the guards they were allies. Once inside, they opened fire, resulting in the deaths of between 1,000 and 1,200 guerrillas, while only 5 scouts were wounded. The operation's repercussions were immediate. The South African government withdrew its military support for Rhodesia, and international pressure mounted for a transition to black majority rule. In response, Prime Minister Ian Smith, just a month after the raid, agreed in principle to this transition in September 1976. Operation Vodka. Another significant operation the Selous Scouts conducted was Operation Vodka in 1978, targeting a camp in Mbaroma, Zambia, to rescue Rhodesian Security Forces members and ZIPRA dissidents held there. According to Reed Daly, the mission's objective was not only to liberate their own personnel, but also to obtain valuable information from the dissidents. By the end of the year, Operation Vodka successfully freed 32 prisoners, who were then safely returned to Rhodesia. End of the Selous Scouts, earning notoriety. By the end of the 1970s, the Selous Scouts concluded their operations. In their 7-year history, they developed a fearsome reputation, accounting for 68% of all guerrilla casualties in the Rhodesian Bush War, while suffering only 36 casualties themselves. However, as the conflict drew to a close, the Scouts' inability to adapt to changing times became apparent. The Geneva Convention's prohibition of troops disguising as civilians, a central tactic of the Selous Scouts, rendered their continued existence untenable. The unit, then comprising 1,000 members, was disbanded, with personnel reassigned to their original military regiments or joining South Africa's security forces. This led to the adoption of Selous Scouts tactics by the South African Police and Defence Force. While the Selous Scouts were known for their effectiveness, they also gained notoriety for their ruthless actions, including allegations of murder, sexual assault, weapons smuggling, ivory poaching, arson, and kidnapping during attacks in Botswana. These illegal activities reportedly went unpunished by the Rhodesian government. The unit was also accused of engaging in chemical warfare, such as poisoning water sources near guerrilla camps in Mozambique with cholera and rumored anthrax use, leading to civilian casualties. In a controversial episode, the Selous Scouts were allegedly ordered to participate in biological warfare by extracting diseased individuals from a local hospital, blurring the lines between civilians and combatants. While they ultimately did not proceed with this plan, the hospital later burned down in an incident involving a tracer round, resulting in the loss of lives inside. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like and comment on this video. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you like what we're doing and you want us to continue with more cool content. Until the next time.